Atop a stone tower, a woman dressed in white gently held a jade ring in her delicate hand. Her dark hair cascaded over her fragrant shoulders, and her face was exceptionally beautiful, with skin as white as snow and brows as finely drawn as a painting. Her every smile and frown radiated an irresistible charm. "The owner of the third silver tower?" The woman in white lifted her head, a faint smile appearing on her stunning face as she spoke. "Yes," the man dressed in black nodded, smiling as he continued, "From the intelligence I've gathered, it seems this silver tower was forcibly taken from a death mystique stage elder of the evil wind cave heaven by someone named Lin Dong. To snatch something from a death mystique stage expert, that's no simple feat." The woman in white smiled slightly. Her gaze then shifted towards a part of the city, and she asked softly, "I wonder what Brother Peng Hao plans to do now? Since we're all here, it's only natural to bring him out. After all, to open the reincarnation cave mansion, we need the combined power of the 3 silver towers." Peng Hao's lips curled into a meaningful smile. The woman in white raised her eyes and added, "Lin Dong is unlike us. He doesn't have the backing of Xintian Palace or the 9 Nether Sect. From what I know, he's a lone wolf. Now that this island is teeming with powerful experts, while they may not dare to covet the silver towers in our hands, if Lin Dong exposes himself, he'll be in quite the bind." "Heh," Peng Hao chuckled, lightly caressing his teacup. "If you don't have the strength, keeping the silver tower is just asking for trouble. He'd be wiser to hand it over and save himself the headache. I'm simply showing him the smart path." Peng Hao smiled coldly. If he's targeted inside the reincarnation cave mansion, even escape might not be an option. Seeing this, the woman in white said no more. Her calm demeanor made it clear she didn't intend to waste her thoughts on a stranger. Peng Hao stood, walking to the edge of the pavilion, his gaze sweeping the city below. Surrounding the city were numerous powerful individuals, many of them with fierce reputations. They cast occasional greedy glances at Peng Hao's silver tower, though none dared act rashly, especially with so many 9 Nether Sect experts present. Meanwhile, Lin Dong mingled with the crowd, his eyes narrowing as he observed the black-clad man. He sensed a familiar energy fluctuation from him, something that came from the silver tower. So, this person is likely one of the other 2 owners of the silver towers. That's Peng Hao, the leader of the 4 demon generals of the 9 Nether Sect. Rumor has it that he holds one of the silver tower keys. Someone whispered nearby. "Him? I've heard of him. They say he reached perfect completion of the life mystique stage a year ago. At such a young age, it's frightening. He's already on par with some of the older generation's top experts." And that woman in white on the pavilion? She's Lu Xiangxuan, the holy maiden of Xintian Palace. Heh, she's said to be one of the top beauties in the Chaos Demon Sea. Beautiful, sure, but she's not someone just any man can handle. Hearing these murmurs, Lin Dong's brow twitched slightly. He hadn't expected the people in the stone pavilion to be from the 9 Nether Sect and Xintian Palace. No wonder the silver tower he held was reacting. But Lin Dong's eyes narrowed as a thought occurred to him. Since his silver tower was reacting, Peng Hao and Lu Xiangxuan, who held the other 2, had probably sensed the same. Lin Dong looked up at Peng Hao, who stood at the edge of the pavilion, surveying the city below. His expression changed briefly, and then, without a word, he grabbed the arm of Mu Lingshan, who stood beside him. "Let's go," he said, turning abruptly and pulling the confused Mu Lingshan with him toward the outskirts of the city. However, before they could take more than a few steps, a voice suddenly rang out from above, accompanied by a chorus of gasps as all eyes turned to Peng Hao, who stood smiling on the pavilion. "I have some good news for everyone," Peng Hao's voice echoed across the city. The holder of the 3rd silver tower key has also arrived at the heavenly Thunder Sea region. As his words fell, the city fell into a brief silence, only to erupt moments later in a flurry of excited chatter. Even those who had remained indifferent until now suddenly showed glimmers of joy in their eyes. The keys to open the reincarnation cave mansion were tied to the 3 silver towers, 2 of which were already in the hands of the 9 Nether Sect and Xintian Palace. With the immense power of these 2 factions, no one dared to challenge them. Naturally, All eyes had turned to the holder of the final silver tower key. Rumors had it that this third holder had no significant background, and his strength was only at the minor completion of the life mystique stage. Though it was unclear how he had managed to snatch the silver tower from a death mystique stage elder, compared to the 9 Nether Sect and Shintian Palace, he was clearly the easiest target. "Oh, Brother Peng Hao," a voice rang out. "If this person is indeed here, it seems it falls to you to invite him out. After all, opening the reincarnation cave mansion is everyone's shared goal." In the skies above the city, a man carrying a crescent blade laughed heartily. His face was marred with scars, giving him a menacing look. However, only those familiar with him knew that he was a well-known powerhouse within the Chaos Demon Sea. Yes, yes. "We must trouble the 9 Nether Sect to bring out that friend of ours," he shouted. As soon as his voice fell, countless others chimed in agreement, though it was clear that beneath the surface, their eyes gleamed with barely concealed greed. Amidst the crowd, Lin Dong listened to the rising chorus of voices. His eyes slowly turned icy, and beside him, Mu Lingshan's wide eyes blazed with anger. Swish! Just as Lin Dong's gaze hardened, a silver light suddenly descended from the sky, enveloping both him and Mu Lingshan in its glow, leaving the onlookers astonished. "Hee, my friend, since you're here, why not reveal yourself?" Peng Hao, smiling gently, gazed at the two figures wrapped in silver light. Whoosh! Around Lin Dong, the crowd gawked at the spectacle, stunned for a moment. Then, with a loud shuffle, those crowded around quickly made space, and all eyes, burning with desire, turned toward Lin Dong. Facing those countless fervent stares, Lin Dong remained expressionless. Yet deep within his eyes, a flash of killing intent flickered. Peng Hao clearly intended to make him the center of attention. It seemed that traveling through the Chaos Demon Sea was indeed fraught with peril, even from someone you've never met. A first encounter, and already, you're being pushed into the fire pit with a smile. Under the heat of so many greedy gazes, Lin Dong slowly turned and looked up at the distant stone tower, where Peng Hao stood with a smile on his face. He spoke softly, "You have quite the tactics, sir." Peng Hao smiled, as if oblivious to the meaning behind Lin Dong's words. He responded cheerfully, "My friend, since you hold the silver tower key as well, why not come up and join us?" On the tower, a woman in white shifted her gaze toward the young man below, who was surrounded by wolves. Was it him? The one who had stirred up the celestial windsea region and snatched the silver tower key from evil wind cave heaven? Lin Dong glanced coldly at Peng Hao and said, "I appreciate the invitation, but I have matters to attend to and can't stay." With that, Lin Dong wasted no time. He turned to leave. The situation was clearly unfavorable for them. His original plan was to keep a low profile until the cave mansion was ready to open. But who could have guessed that Peng Hao would expose his identity right after his arrival? Now, many eyes were undoubtedly fixed on him. "That bastard," Lin Dong muttered under his breath, his hand clenched tightly within his sleeve. A surge of intense killing intent rose within him. Peng Hao's actions had clearly ignited his desire to kill. Peng Hao watched with a smile as Lin Dong, still holding Mu Lingshan's hand, turned to leave. He made no attempt to stop him, but his eyes gleamed with increasing amusement and mockery. Under the gaze of countless onlookers, Lin Dong and Mu Lingshan continued down the ancient stone-paved street, heading toward the city's outskirts. Eyes filled with greed followed them like packs of hungry wolves. Thud. Just as Lin Dong reached the end of the street, his expression darkened. Ahead of him stood several figures, each emanating a deadly aura. Waves of powerful primordial energy rippled from their bodies. "So, you're Lin Dong? Hand over the silver tower key, and I'll let you walk away," came a chilling voice, laden with menace. Lin Dong's gaze turned cold at those words. He slowly released Mu Lingshan's hand, exhaling lightly. It seemed that endless retreat wasn't a viable strategy after all. Against these ruthless types, one had to be even more ruthless. Mu Lingshan turned her head slightly and saw the mounting ferocity and bloodlust rising in Lin Dong's eyes. At the end of the ancient road, four figures stood with their blades drawn. Each of them wore blood-red robes adorned with the insignia of a bloodied knife. A faint scent of blood emanated from them. These 4 men exuded a terrifying strength, their primordial energy overwhelming. All of them had reached the great completion of the life mystique stage, and the leader's aura was even stronger, standing at the peak of that stage. Whispers spread quickly among the surrounding onlookers. It's the 4 generals of the Blood Blade Sect. That leader? It's Lu Zong, isn't it? Looks like they got to him first. Those guys sure are impatient. I wonder how Lin Dong will fare against them? They've made quite a name for themselves in the Chaos Demon Sea. The 4 generals of the Blood Blade are masters at working together. Even a powerhouse at the perfect completion of the life mystique stage would struggle to handle them. Lin Dong, he's in for some trouble. Hearing the murmurs around them, the 4 red-robed figures grinned, bloodlust flashing in their eyes. The leader, Lu Zong, tilted his head and looked at Lin Dong, his face marked by a deep scar running from his eye across his cheek, giving him a fearsome look. Lin Dong, hand over the silver tower key. It's not worth risking your life for it. After all, when the cave mansion opens, you can still go in for a stroll. No need to throw your life away for it now. Phew. Under the watchful gaze of the crowd, Lin Dong, his eyes slightly lowered, suddenly exhaled softly. Then, he slowly raised his head. Despite his youthful face, a sudden and unsettling ferocity surged forth, chilling to the core. Get lost. The single word, spoken without much emotion, escaped Lin Dong's lips. Instantly, the surrounding commotion quieted. Countless eyes filled with various emotions fixed upon him, surprised that he could still be so aggressive in such a situation. Did he not realize that the 4 men standing before him were notorious killers with blood on their hands? Courageous, aren't you? The man in the red robe, his face scarred, twitched slightly before grinning. Yet, that smile carried an unmistakable murderous intent. Remember my name, Lu Zong of the Bloodblade Sect. Since you've brought the silver tower key here, I'll make sure you know why you're dying. Lu Zong's grin spread wider, and in an instant, his gaze turned venomous like a snake's. Kill him. Boom. As his words fell, the 3 men beside him suddenly unleashed an overwhelming surge of primordial energy. The blood-colored long knives they clutched gleamed coldly in the sunlight. Mu Lingshan, standing next to Lin Dong, saw this and anger flickered across her big eyes. She was about to pull out the life and death coffin lid to smash these men into pulp, but Lin Dong held up a hand to stop her. I'll handle it. Lin Dong spoke softly. He had clearly miscalculated from the start. In a place like this, trying to avoid conflict was laughable. The strong here, hailing from the Chaos Demon Sea, were used to dancing on the edge of death. If he wanted to keep the silver tower key, he had no choice but to make them fear him. And these 4 just happened to be the perfect targets to make an example of. All right. Mu Lingshan nodded and stepped back. She knew Lin Dong's strength well. While these 4 were no pushovers, getting the upper hand on him was nearly impossible. Shing. Just as Mu Lingshan retreated, a sharp gleam of blade light flashed, and the 3 men charged toward Lin Dong like shadows, their blood knives cutting through the air in deadly arcs, aiming for his vital points. The coordination between the 3 was seamless, combined with their great completion of the life mystique stage strength. Their swift and vicious assault made many onlookers shift uneasily. Clearly, the 4 generals of the Bloodblade Sect were not to be underestimated. Kid, blame yourself for carrying something you shouldn't have. The 3 men's twisted faces grew larger in Lin Dong's vision as their blades descended like lightning, aiming to tear his body apart. Clang! But just as their cruel smiles spread, the crisp sound of metal clashing rang out. Suddenly, they felt a tremendous force surging through their blood knives, making their hands go numb. In shock, the 3 men looked up and saw their blood knives had struck Lin Dong's body. Yet his flesh was as tough as iron. Their deadly blade light hadn't even scratched his skin. What a monstrous body! Countless eyes in the crowd locked on Lin Dong, and the faces of many onlookers grew grave. Is that all you've got? You dare try to rob someone with that? Lin Dong raised his head slowly, his gaze mocking as he looked at the trio, now filled with dread. Hearing his taunt, the The three great completion life Mystique stage warriors instantly ignited their killing intent. Their primordial energy surged once more as their blood knives spun in unison, forming three blood-red arcs that sliced through the air, aiming to sever Lin Dong's throat like scissors. Creak. Lin Dong's hand shot out suddenly, glowing with a green light. For azure dragon light patterns danced along his arm. Grabbing the three incoming blood arcs, he clenched his fist tightly. With a flash of green, the three deadly arcs shattered under his grasp. Second brother, retreat now? Lu Zong's pupils contracted sharply as he shouted. Lin Dong's strength had clearly exceeded their expectations. Hearing the command, the faces of the three great completion life Mystique stage fighters changed. Without hesitation, they retreated. Leaving? Just as they began to retreat, the young man who had remained still until now suddenly moved like an awakened lion. His pitch-black eyes flooded with murderous intent. Whoosh! In the blink of an eye, Lin Dong's figure vanished and reappeared in front of the retreating trio like a ghost. His arm, with four azure dragon light patterns swirling, punched forward with terrifying force. The violent wind from his punch roared towards the three men. Gritting their teeth, they crossed their blood knives to block the attack, channeling all their primordial energy into one final defense. Boom! Lin Dong's fist, glowing with green light, collided with the crossed blades. Thud! A violent gust of wind surged through the broken blade handle, transmitting its force into the bodies of the three powerful figures at the great completion of the Life Mystique stage. They immediately spat out blood and were sent flying backward in a disgraceful retreat. With just a single punch, all three of them had been utterly defeated. Yet, after blasting the three away with one blow, Lin Dong's ferocity did not wane. With a sudden flick of his sleeve, three shattered blade fragments tore through the air at an astonishing speed. Under the horrified gazes of the onlookers, the fragments pierced straight through the foreheads of the three men. Pfft. The sound of metal slicing through flesh sent shivers through the crowd. Eyes widened as they watched the three bodies collapse to the ground, their faces frozen in disbelief. Lin Dong's ruthless methods were shockingly vicious. "You little brat, how dare you?" Lu Zong was stunned by the scene before him, his expression quickly darkening with venomous rage. He had never expected Lin Dong to be so much more ruthless than even they were. Go join them. In your next life, make sure to assess your target before acting. Lin Dong raised his head, flashing a cold smile at Lu Zong. As the crowd looked on, 10 azure dragon-shaped energy patterns suddenly appeared around Lin Dong's body. Whoosh! 8 of the azure dragon patterns wrapped around Lin Dong, and in the blink of an eye, his body transformed into a streak of green light, shooting forward with incredible speed. Blood Ancestors' soul-cleaving strike. Massive waves of primordial energy erupted from within Lu Zong as his eyes blazed with hatred. He slashed fiercely with his blood-red blade, sending out a gigantic 100-foot-long crimson blade light that whistled through the air. The fierce blade energy shook the entire ancient road, nearly tearing it apart. Whoosh! The green light streaked through the air, colliding head-on with the blood-colored blade energy under the watchful eyes of countless onlookers. A dragon's roar echoed as the seemingly overwhelming blade energy shattered instantly under the impact of the green light. How is this possible? Lu Zong's eyes filled with terror as the green light rapidly expanded in his vision. His attack, which he thought was unstoppable, hadn't even scratched Lin Dong. Bang! The green light pierced through the blade energy with unstoppable force and shot straight into Lu Zong, passing through his body entirely. Blood sprayed through the air as the green light condensed behind Lu Zong, slowly dissipating. Lin Dong's figure emerged once again amidst the astonished gazes of the crowd. His hand fell gently by his side, while behind him, Lu Zong's lifeless body crumpled to the ground, his face still twisted in shock and fear. One strike. Instant death. The crowd was left in stunned silence, their breaths held as they processed the outcome. A peak stage expert of the great completion in the Life Mystique stage had been killed in an instant? Does anyone else want the silver tower key? Blood dripped from Lin Dong's hand as he lifted his head, his dark eyes radiating cold indifference. His calm, almost casual voice echoed through the now eerily quiet city. The once lively city had fallen into a strange, uneasy silence. Countless eyes were now fixed on the lone figure at the end of the ancient road, many of them filled with a mix of awe and fear. The killing intent that radiated from Lin Dong was palpable, causing even some of the more battle-hardened onlookers to feel a chill. No one had anticipated that Lin Dong would kill Lu Zong and his men with such ruthless efficiency. Many had expected an intense battle, but no one had foreseen that the fight would be over in the blink of an eye, leaving 4 corpses on the ground. Everyone could clearly sense Lin Dong's swift and deadly precision. He had not given Lu Zong and his group even the slightest chance. His first move was a fatal one. This display of ruthlessness made it clear that despite his youth, anyone who underestimated Lin Dong would be making a grave mistake. Because of Lin Dong's brutal actions, no one dared to speak after his chilling words. Those who had been tempted by the Silver Tower key suppressed their greed. The key might be valuable, but you needed to be alive to use it. Haha, no wonder you managed to claim the 3rd Silver Tower key. Your strength is truly remarkable. From a nearby stone pavilion, Pang Hao clapped slowly, a smile on his face as he watched the scene unfold. The playful look in his eyes faded as he spoke. The Bloodblade's 4 generals had a fearsome reputation. Together, they could contend with a powerhouse at the perfect completion of the life mystique stage. Yet now, in just a few short moments, they had all fallen at Lin Dong's hands. His strength was beyond Pang Hao's expectations. Inside the stone pavilion, Lu Xiangshuan idly twirled a jade ring around her slender finger. Her beautiful eyes lifted, a trace of surprise flickering within as she observed the slender figure in the distance. No wonder he managed to snatch the Silver Tower from the hands of a death mystique stage powerhouse. Even if he used some tricks, it was still enough for him to be proud of himself. After all, this isn't something just anyone could pull off. At an ancient path, Lin Dong wiped the blood off his palm, then turned his head, his eyes coldly gazing at the smiling Pang Hao. This guy really was a wolf in sheep's clothing. If Lin Dong hadn't been tricked by him earlier, he might have thought that smile was genuinely friendly. Pang Hao, I'm not interested in fighting with you, so don't bother trying to drag me into your games. If you keep this up, I'll just take the Silver Tower and leave the Heavenly Thundersea region. In the end, nobody will benefit from that, Lin Dong said calmly, his eyes locked onto Pang Hao. Pang Hao's eyes narrowed slightly, and the smile on his face deepened. He chuckled softly, Brother Lin Dong. What are you talking about? I haven't done anything to you, just extended a friendly invitation. At this, his tone paused, and his smile took on a cold edge. I know you've got some skills, but if you think you can throw your weight around in front of the 9 Nether sect, you might still be lacking a little. Is that so? Lin Dong's eyes glinted with cold light as the faint azure glow around his body surged like a rising tide. Seeing this, Pang Hao lifted his hand slightly. Suddenly, the sound of the wind breaking filled the air, and shadows darted across the sky like phantoms. The figures that appeared all emitted incredibly powerful auras, each one at the life mystique stage. The powerful figures in the city looked on, their eyebrows raising at the sight. It seemed Pang Hao was quite determined to make a move against Lin Dong and seize the key to the Silver Tower. Lin Dong glanced up, his gaze sweeping over the figures in the sky before settling on 3 hulking silhouettes behind Pang Hao. The auras they emitted were at the level of half-step to perfect completion in the life mystique stage. Heh, so the 4 demon generals of the 9 Nether sect are all here. These 4 are the most outstanding talents of the younger generation in the 9 Nether sect. It's quite something that they sent them all. Amidst the hushed whispers in the crowd, one of the men behind Pang Hao grinned, his eyes gleaming coldly as he stared at Lin Dong in the distance. Boss, this kid isn't showing us any respect. Should we just take the key to the Silver Tower by force? Pang Hao gave a sinister smile and nodded slightly. Swoosh. The moment he nodded, the 3 men behind him narrowed their eyes, and a torrent of primordial energy erupted from them. In an instant, the 3 of them shot forward simultaneously, leaving behind afterimages as they darted toward Lin Dong like phantoms. 3 experts at half-step to perfect completion in the life mystique stage attacking at once. It was a terrifying sight. As Lin Dong watched the three shadows rapidly closing in, just as he was about to make a move, a petite figure suddenly shot forward from behind him. In her hands, a massive black coffin lid reappeared, and with a fierce sweep, black waves of energy rippled out, slamming into the three figures. Boom! A dull thud echoed through the air, and to everyone's shock, the three powerful attackers were sent flying. They staggered in the air, barely managing to stabilize themselves, but their faces were filled with a mix of surprise and frustration. You dare send these weaklings after me? Aren't you afraid I'll crush them all? The petite figure stood in the air, holding the black coffin lid that was large enough to cover her entire body. Her clear voice, like the ringing of a silver bell, was dripping with scorn as she glanced disdainfully at the three figures she had just knocked back. This little girl, she's actually at perfect completion of the life mystique stage. The surrounding crowd stared in shock at the young girl in green standing in the air. The power emanating from her body had reached the terrifying level of perfect completion in the life mystique stage. This kind of strength put her on par with Pang Hao and Lu Xiangshuan. Even Pang Hao was slightly startled by this turn of events. His eyes darkened as he glanced coldly at Mu Lingshan, then sneered, "So that's where your confidence comes from. You found yourself a pretty decent helper. But do you really think this will be enough? Even though the top experts of the 9 Nether sect can't enter the Heavenly Thundersea region, do you think it'll be difficult to deal with you? Then why don't you try?" Lin Dong's eyes flashed with icy determination, showing no signs of backing down. He knew that while the 9 Nether sect had sent many strong fighters, this certainly wasn't all of their forces. Even though that was the case, Lin Dong still didn't show any fear. Even if Pang Hao truly had a death mystique stage powerhouse by his side, Lin Dong could still rely on his devouring heavenly corpse to tie him down, rendering him immobile. He wasn't one to stir up trouble unnecessarily, but if trouble came knocking, he would not hesitate to kick it aside. The smile on Pang Hao's face gradually faded as a surge of primordial energy erupted around him. A faint but intimidating aura began to emanate from him. Pang Hao's strength had also reached the perfect completion of the life mystique stage. Sensing the shift in Pang Hao's energy, Mu Lingshan's small hand instinctively gripped the life and death coffin lid tighter, ready to strike at any moment. "Both of you, we're all here for the reincarnation cave mansion. We haven't even set foot inside, and you're already starting a fight. Isn't this a bit rash?" As tensions mounted, a soft and composed voice suddenly echoed from the nearby pavilion. All eyes turned as Lu Xiangshuan gracefully stepped forward, her white dress fluttering. Her stunning beauty instantly drew the attention of the crowd. Lin Dong glanced at the woman in white and was momentarily taken aback. In terms of looks alone, she might just be the only one who could rival Ling Qingzhu in all the years he'd known. "Both of you hold the silver tower keys. To open the mansion, we'll need to work together. If something were to happen now, it would only delay the process." Pang Hao's eyes flickered at her words. A smile once again appeared on his face as he said, "Xiangshuan is right. In that case, I'll back down for now." Lin Dong gave them both a brief glance, but didn't bother wasting words. He turned and walked away. Seeing this, Mu Lingshan quickly followed. "Friend, 3 days from now, the storm in the Heavenly Thundersea region will weaken. That will be our best chance to enter. I hope you'll join us then. After all, we need 3 keys to open the mansion," Lu Xiangshuan said softly, her red lips parting as she addressed Lin Dong's retreating figure. "I'll be there in 3 days," Lin Dong replied without turning back. With a wave of his hand, he swiftly left the city, disappearing from the countless gazes that followed him. It seems Xiangshuan's charms didn't work this time. "That guy doesn't seem to care much for beauty," Pang Hao remarked with a chuckle as he watched Lin Dong vanish into the distance. Lu Xiangshuan merely smiled faintly. She was well aware of the effect her looks had on men, but that didn't mean she expected every man to fall for her. From Lin Dong's earlier actions, it was clear he was decisive and resolute. Someone who wouldn't be swayed by mere beauty. As Lin Dong left, the tension in the city gradually eased. Many eyes flickered with thought as they watched him go, but no one dared to make a move. The strength that Lin Dong and the young girl at his side had displayed was enough to deter any rash actions. Everyone now knew that snatching the Silver Tower key from Lindong was no simple task. Of course, there were some who remained as silent observers. Many powerhouses had gathered here for the Reincarnation Cave Mansion, including a few hidden figures of great strength. They clearly had no intention of revealing themselves just yet. This journey to the Reincarnation Cave Mansion would be full of hidden dangers. As Lin Dong moved away from the city, he failed to notice that, on a distant mountain peak, 3 figures were quietly watching his retreating form. On their robes, black and white patterns intertwined, resembling the alternating forces of yin and yang. If Lin Dong had seen these markings, he would have immediately recognized them. These symbols represented a sect known as the Yuan Sect. Standing atop the mountain were 3 figures, the leader of whom had long hair, with 2 strands of pale white hanging down over his forehead. His eyes were as dark as ink, with a faintly eerie gleam. He stared into the distance, watching Lin Dong's figure for a long moment before finally withdrawing his gaze. With a smile, he said, "Lin Dong, is it? Have we confirmed it?" The 2 men beside him exchanged glances and smiled. One of them pulled out a scroll and opened it, revealing a glowing image of Lin Dong, identical to the man they were watching. "Yes, it's him. He matches the description of the Dao Sect disciple from the reports," said the silver-haired man with a faint smile. "Heh, seems he's got some skill, being chased all the way from the Eastern Mystery region to the Chaos Demon Sea and still causing quite the commotion," remarked the other man, whose tall and slender figure, along with his skin that glowed like jade, made him appear rather peculiar. "No wonder he managed to outplay those 3 fools from the Yuan Sect," the silver-haired man said with a smirk. The leader chuckled. "When we went out for our training, those 3 were just starting to make a name for themselves in the sect. Those 3 have decent talent. If they were in the Chaos Demon Sea, they might not be on the same level as Pang Hao or Lu Xiangshuan, but they could still hold their own among the younger generation," he mused. "Their downfall is due to Lin Dong being too strong. Even when the 3 sect masters took action, they couldn't kill him. Not even Zhou Tong from the Dao sect managed that back in the day." The other 2 nodded in agreement. Lin Dong hasn't even been in the Chaos Demon Sea for a year, yet he's already made quite a name for himself. Now he dares to challenge someone as fierce as Pang Hao. Heh, it's not bad at all. But since we've received orders from the sect and just happened to run into him, we might as well make a move. After all, we are the former 3 Little Kings of Yuan Sect. That title is a symbol of honor in Yuan Sect. We can't let Lin Dong tarnish it," the man in the lead said with a casual smile. "What do you plan to do, big brother?" "Back in Yuan Sect, during the sect competition, we almost made that senior sister from Heaven Hall of Dao Sect beg for mercy on her knees," the silver-haired man reminisced, his expression reflecting the glory of their past days in the Eastern Mystery region. "No rush. We're here for the commotion around the Reincarnation Cave Mansion. As for Lin Dong, we'll take care of him after he enters. Then, we'll grab the Silver Tower key while we're at it," the lead man said with a smirk. "That works. Once he's in the Reincarnation Cave Mansion, there will be no escape. After we finish him, we can send his corpse back to Dao Sect when we return to the Eastern Mystery region. It's only fair, right?" The man with jade-like skin pondered for a moment and added with a sinister smile. The other 2 chuckled in agreement, imagining the look on Dao Sect's face when that day arrived. Whoosh! Lin Dong and his companion gradually moved away from the stone city at the island's center. As Lin Dong's figure slowed and landed atop a large tree, his brow furrowed slightly as he glanced back. For some reason, he couldn't shake the feeling that he was being watched. It was like being targeted by a venomous snake lurking in the dark, leaving him deeply uncomfortable. "Brother Lin Dong, what's wrong?" Mu Lingshan landed beside him, her tone filled with curiosity. "Nothing." Lin Dong shook his head. The sensation had completely disappeared here, but it still left him on guard. Earlier, in the Stone City, he had sensed many concealed and powerful presences. Clearly, the Reincarnation Cave Mansion had drawn in no small number of formidable experts. It seemed that there would be an intense struggle for whatever lay inside that cave mansion. "Brother Lin Dong, what should we do now?" "Let's wait. We'll move in 3 days. After all, To open the reincarnation cave mansion, we need all 3 silver tower keys. Also, be extra cautious during this time. We're not like 9 Nether Sect or Shintian Palace, who have a swarm of experts protecting them. We have to rely on ourselves, Lin Dong instructed. Got it. Mu Lingshan nodded. Seeing this, Lin Dong exhaled lightly, his gaze drifting to the horizon, where black thunderclouds loomed over the dark sea. The ominous darkness was like an ancient beast, threatening to devour anyone who ventured inside. This sea region was undeniably dangerous. Over the next 3 days, Lin Dong and Mu Lingshan found a secluded spot on the island to settle down, avoiding any unnecessary conflicts while waiting for the right moment. During that time, Lin Dong could feel the number of experts on the island swelling to terrifying proportions. Most of them were quite powerful. After all, anyone hoping to gain something here had to be formidable. Otherwise, they'd simply end up as prey. As the number of experts grew, so did the chaos on the island. Where there are many people, conflicts are inevitable, and those who came here were far from friendly. Fights broke out at the slightest disagreement. In just 3 days, countless battles erupted, with many dying without even glimpsing the reincarnation cave mansion, buried on this very island. It was a grim reminder of the ruthlessness that pervaded the Chaos Demon Sea. Here, without enough strength, one could become someone else's prey at any moment. Due to the island's increasing disorder, Lin Dong and Mu Lingshan also faced their fair share of trouble. The silver tower key in Lin Dong's possession attracted quite a few greedy individuals. However, their fates were sealed as Mu Lingshan wielded the life and death coffin lid, sending them flying, bloodied, and defeated. By the end of the 3 days, Lin Dong was still unscathed, but Mu Lingshan had earned herself a new title, Little Violent Demoness. Far from being upset, she was delighted by it, her enthusiasm for battle only growing stronger. The violent tendencies inherited from her sea demon lineage were on full display. And so, amidst the growing chaos, the 3 days passed. On the 3rd day, as Lin Dong sat cross-legged atop a rocky outcrop, his eyes slowly opened. He lifted his head, catching countless streams of light reflecting in his pupils. The entire island had erupted into an intense frenzy, and the sounds of commotion echoed far and wide. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. The island had transformed into a hive, with countless figures shooting into the sky, heading straight for the depths of the heavenly Thunder Sea region. Let's move out. Lin Dong stood up and smiled at Mu Lingshan, who had been itching to leave. As soon as the words left his mouth, his body blurred into motion. With a burst of cyan light, he shot off like a streaking rainbow, darting from the island toward the depths of the heavenly Thunder Sea region. As Lin Dong sped away, many gazes followed him. Over the past 3 days, news had already spread that he held the Silver Tower key, making him a well-known figure to many. What are you looking at? Mu Lingshan, following close behind him, noticed the stares. Her delicate face twisted into a mischievous scowl as she shouted sharply. Upon seeing her expression, some of the onlookers flinched. Just a day ago, she had chased a powerful cultivator, one who had even reached perfect completion of the life mystique stage, all over the island, dragging a coffin lid behind her. Since then, no one dared provoke this seemingly adorable, yet terrifyingly violent, little demoness. Lin Dong caught this scene out of the corner of his eye and couldn't help but chuckle. With a flicker of cyan radiance, his speed surged again, sending him diving into the pitch-black waters of the sea. Boom! The instant he entered the Black Sea, the sky above erupted with deafening thunder. The force of the rumbling bolts was so overwhelming that even Lin Dong's heart gave a slight tremor. He exhaled slowly, steadying his mind. His gaze swept over the crowd of cultivators swarming into the sea like a plague of locusts. Then, with a flicker of excitement in his eyes, he fixed his focus on the distant depths of the heavenly Thunder Sea region. The corner of his lips curled upward as a fiery eagerness spread through him. Thunder Ancestral Talisman,